I just set my canvas bag down on the kitchen table here in Mandurah, and this whole thing, every meal, every coffee, every little treat for the entire week, cost me 85 Australian dollars. That's about 56 US dollars. And the very same shop back in Ohio ran me close to double. If you've ever stood at the register back home watching that total climb and wondered whether your check would even stretch out, here, stay with me, because I'm about to lay it all out. But before I dig into the bag, do me one quick favor. Subscribe to the channel and hit that like. It honestly makes my day, and it keeps these little porch chats coming your way. All right, back to the bag. $85 for a whole week. That's the number. And I'm going to say it again because I know how it lands the first time. It sounds like I'm fibbing. A full week of groceries for one man, under $100, when the same run in Ohio used to sit up near 160. So how does that work? That's the whole question. Stick with me and I'll walk you right through it, item by item, till it stops sounding impossible. Let me tell you who's talking, so you know I'm not blowing smoke. I'm Jim. I'm 69, and I've been living out here in Mandurah, Western Australia, for 10 years now. Long enough to have made every rookie money mistake there is, and long enough to finally know where the good food hides and what it really costs. Now I remember the other side of this. I remember the gray Ohio winter, the slush in the parking lot, hauling the cart out to the car with my breath fogging up. And I remember standing at that register, watching the little screen tick higher and higher, $8 for a sad piece of fish, $5 for a bag of oranges that traveled 1,000 miles to get there. And underneath it all, that quiet worry, a lot of you know, you're on a fixed check now, the paycheck stopped. And you sit there doing the math, wondering if a retirement dollar can even breathe somewhere new, somewhere far off like Australia. I had that exact worry. So let me show you where this week's $85 actually started. It started this morning, early, at the Mandurah Farmers Market. If you've never stood in that car park at first light, let me paint it for you. The cockatoos are up before you are screeching over the rooftops like they own the place. There's a salt smell coming off the estuary, that flat silver water just past the stalls, and the whole thing wakes you up better than the coffee does. Folks nodding, good morning, canvas bags over their shoulders, no rush anywhere. And right near the front, there's Dave. Dave runs the fish stall, big fella. Forearms sunburned red-brown from a lifetime out on the water. I've been buying off him for years. This morning he holds up a couple of fresh whitings still gleaming, and he says, "This was swimming yesterday, mate." And I believe him, because it looks it. $2.90 for the whiting. $2.90. Now, let that sit next to home for a second. That same fresh fish, off the counter back in the States, a small fortune. You'd pay $8, $9, $10 for a fillet that's been sitting on ice for who knows how long, trucked in from somewhere. Here it was pulled from the coast a day ago, and it cost me less than a cup of coffee. That's the first thing I want you to be able to check for yourself. $2.90. From Dave's stall, I wandered over to the produce tables. A box of local tomatoes, deep red, still smelling of the vine. A bag of spuds. Oranges still cool from the morning, cold in my hand. This is food grown a stone's throw from where I'm standing, not shipped across the world. Go ahead and do the math in your head as we go. I want you guessing how a whole week lands under $100. Fish for $2.90. A box of tomatoes. A bag of potatoes. Oranges. Start stacking it up in your mind and see where you think it lands. Now, folks always ask me the same thing when I tell them a story like this. They say, "Jim, how on earth did you figure all this out? The shopping, the money, the whole move, without getting fleeced along the way?" And honestly, the answer is, I didn't, not at first. In 10 years here, I made just about every money mistake a newcomer can make. Paid too much, shopped in the wrong spots, chased the brands from back home. So I sat down and wrote all of it out, the honest answers to the questions I actually had at the start in my practical ebook, One Way Guide, over in the One Way Club. It won't pack up your life and move you here for you, but it answers the real questions, the ones nobody tells you, from the budgeting right down to the retiree paperwork. If you already know the ropes, you don't need it. If you're still standing at the kitchen table dreaming, it's exactly what I wish I'd had. You can scan the code on the screen or find the link down in the description. All right, where were we? The bag. Here's the thing I want to be straight with you about, because I'm not here to sell you a fairy tale. Not everything is cheaper out here. There's one item in this bag that actually runs dearer than it did back home, and it surprised even me after 10 years. I'll name it when we get to it, because that's the honest part of this story. And honest is the only way I know how to do these. So the market's done. I've driven home, the cockatoos still going out back, and I've tipped the whole canvas bag out onto the kitchen table. Every single thing I bought for the week lined up in a row. The fish from Dave, the tomatoes, the spuds, the oranges, the bread, the coffee, the little bits I'll show you. And now I'm going to read it back to you like my own bank statement, starting with the fish and getting to that one line that still makes me raise an eyebrow: the price of a decent bag of coffee. So here it all is, lined up on the table, and I'll read it back the way I read my own bank statement. Start with the protein: fresh fish and a bit of chicken, $18 Australian, right around 12 US. And yes, I promised you the one line that runs dearer here than back home, and it's coming, because a good bag of coffee out here still makes me raise an eyebrow after 10 years. But let's stay with that fish and chicken a second. $18 Australian. That's Dave's whiting, the fillets he slid across the counter that morning with the salt still on his forearms, plus a bit of chicken for the middle of the week. 12 US dollars, give or take, for the protein that carries a whole week of dinners. Back in Ohio, I'd stand at the meat counter and watch that same amount of fresh fish and chicken ring up for near double. Same food, different counter. That's the whole story of my week. Really, told in one line. Next line. Vegetables and fruit from the market. $16 Australian. Call it 10 US. That's the box of local tomatoes, the bag of spuds, the oranges that were still cool from the morning air, a couple of onions, some greens. A whole week of vegetables and fruit for 10 American dollars. I used to fill a cart in the produce aisle back home and hand over a lot more than that, and half of it had flown in from 3 states away. Here, it grew down the road. You can taste the difference. And honestly, you can feel it in the wallet more. Bread's next. And this one's easy. $5 Australian, $3.30 US. A proper loaf from the bakery, baked that same morning, still warm in its paper bag when I carried it to the car. Not the sad plastic wrap stuff. Real bread from a real oven for the price of a candy bar back home. $5. I don't think twice about it anymore. And now the coffee. This is the one I told you about, the line that runs a touch dearer here, the honest one. A good bag of ground coffee, $12 Australian, that's about 8 US dollars. Now, be honest with yourself, you've got a number in your head for what these run back home. Hold it right there, because this is the one that's going to surprise you. Back in the States, I'd grab a tin for around $10 and not blink. Out here, that same decent bag cost me more. Coffee is genuinely dearer in Australia. I'm not going to dress that up for you. 10 years in, I still notice it every time I fill the grinder. On the back deck of a morning, cockatoos screeching over the estuary, and I think, yep, coffee's the one thing that costs me a bit extra out here. And you know what? I pay it happily. Because look at every other line on this table. When 6 lines out of 7 come in cheaper than home, I can wear 1 bag of coffee running dearer. That's a trade I'll take every single week. So there it is. The loop I opened at the start, closed. You wanted to know which one thing costs more over here. It's the coffee. $12 Australian against a $10 tin. Now you know. And now you can plan around it. Keep going. Milk, eggs, and cheese. The everyday staples. The things that live in the fridge door and never make it exciting, but you'd notice fast if they were gone. $14 Australian for the lot. About 9 US, a couple of liters of milk, a carton of eggs, a good block of cheese. That's the backbone of a week's breakfasts and half the lunches. 9 American dollars. I remember that same little group of things costing me plenty more back home, and I wasn't buying anything fancy then either. Then the pantry. Rice, pasta and the bits, a little tin of this, a jar of that, the stuff that turns a fish fillet into an actual dinner. $11 Australian, round about $7.30 US. And that $11 stretches. Rice and pasta don't get eaten in a day. Half of what's in that line will still be in the cupboard next week, quietly doing its job. So really, it costs me less than the number even says if you spread it out honest. Keep a running tally in your head. We're almost at the total, and I want you to see it land before I say it. And the last line, the one I refuse to skip. The little treat. A block of chocolate and a couple of lamingtons for Friday. $9 Australian, 6 US dollars. Now, some folks, when they're budgeting a move, they cut this line first. They think being careful means going without. I don't believe that for a second. A week without a little something good on a Friday afternoon isn't a week worth budgeting for. So $9 buys me a block of chocolate and 2 of those soft little sponge cakes rolled in coconut, and they sit right there on the counter waiting for the end of the week. That's not waste. That's the whole point of doing this well. And here's the trick underneath all of it, the thing that keeps every one of these lines low. You buy what the coast and the farms are already giving you. That's it. That's the whole secret. I don't stand in the aisle hunting for the American brands I grew up with, paying triple because somebody shipped a familiar label halfway around the world. When the whiting's running, I eat whiting. When the tomatoes are in, I buy tomatoes by the box. I shop what's local and what's in season, and the season decides my menu instead of a brand deciding my budget. Chase the food from home, and you'll pay for the chase. Eat what's already here, fresh and close, and the numbers fall into place on their own. That's why none of this is a magic trick. There's no coupon clipping, no driving to 4 stores. It's one market, one morning, and a bit of common sense about buying what grows near the water and what swims off the coast. So look at the table now. Every line's on it. The fish and chicken, the vegetables and fruit, the bread, the coffee, yes, the dearer one, the milk, eggs, and cheese, the rice and pasta, and Friday's little treat sitting off to the side. 18, 16, 5, 12, 14, 11, 9, 7 honest lines. Each one said once. Each one held up against what I used to pay back home. The columns are right there in front of me, and I'm about to do the one thing I've been building to all along. Add them up, out loud, and see if they really land on the number I opened this whole thing with. And then I'll walk you back to Dave's $2.90 whiting all the way to the back deck on Thursday night. So let's do it. 18, 16, 5, 12, 14, 11, 9. Let me add those columns out loud, right here at the table, the way I did this morning. Because this is the number I promised you at the very start, and I want you to watch it land. So grab the paper with me. 18 for the fish and the bit of chicken. Add the 16 for the market fruit and veg, and you're at 34. 5 for the bread from the bakery, 39. 12 for that good bag of coffee, that puts us at 51. Then 14 for the milk, the eggs, the cheese, 65. 11 for the rice and pasta and the pantry bits, 76. And the 9 for the block of chocolate and the 2 lamingtons I flat out refuse to skip on a Friday. 76 and 9. 85. There it is, $85. About 56 US dollars, give or take, for a whole week. Now compare it to the number in your own head right now. Go on. Whatever figure you've been carrying around for a week of groceries back home, hold it up next to 85. I'll bet the gap surprises you. It still surprises me, and I've been adding this same little column for 10 years. And here's the thing I love about doing it on paper instead of just waving my hand at it. Every one of those numbers is a thing I can see. The 18 is Dave's whiting and a couple of chicken thighs. The 16 is a box of tomatoes, still cool from the morning, and a bag of spuds. The 9 is a Friday treat I can actually taste. It's not a budget on a spreadsheet. It's a week of real meals, sitting right here on the kitchen table where I set that canvas bag down this morning. Now, let me walk that whiting all the way home for you, because I promised you I would. Remember, Dave, the fella at the fish stall with the sunburned forearms who slid me the whiting straight off the coast and said, "This was swimming yesterday, mate. $2.90. Well, Thursday night, I took those fillets, gave them a light crumb, and fried them up in a hot pan with a bit of butter till the edges went gold and crisp. The smell of it, honestly, that alone is worth the price of admission. I carried the plate out onto the back deck, sat down in the old chair, and the light was doing that thing it does out here, going gold and soft over the water, the estuary gone all still and glassy. A couple of cockatoos were carrying on in the gum tree next door, the way they always do at that hour, screeching like they own the place. Salt coming up off the water on the breeze, and I sat there with a plate of fresh-caught fish that cost me under $3, eating like a king, doing absolutely nothing but watching the day close down over Mandurah. That's the meal the 18 bought. That's what a number on a receipt actually turns into. Now, I'd be lying to you, and I told you at the start I wouldn't if I said every single thing here is cheaper than back home. It isn't. The coffee runs a touch dearer. We already talked about that. And if you come out here chasing the exact brands from your American pantry, the imported peanut butter, the particular cereal, the soda you grew up on, you'll pay a premium for those, and some weeks a steep one. That's just the truth of it. Imported treats cost more here, full stop. But that's exactly where the whole trick lives. You stop chasing the labels from home, and you buy what the coast and the farms are already giving you, whiting off the boat instead of frozen fillets flown in. Tomatoes and oranges that grew an hour up the road instead of something trucked across a continent. Eat what's local, eat what's in season, and the number takes care of itself. fight it, insist on your old shopping list from Ohio, and yeah, it'll cost you. That part's a choice, and it's yours to make. Speaking of Ohio, let's go all the way back to where we started this morning. I told you right at the top that I used to do this very same shop back home for close to double, and I want you to really sit with that, because this is the arithmetic that made the move real for me. A week of food that lands at $85 here was pushing $150, sometimes more, back in the States for less fish, older produce, and a lot more of it wrapped in plastic. Same appetite, same man, nearly twice the bill. That's not a small thing when you're living on a fixed check. That's not pocket change you shrug off. That's the difference, week after week, month after month, that quietly decides whether retirement feels tight or whether it feels easy. And out here, on a canvas bag of fresh food from the Mandurah market, mine feels easy. So let me turn this back to you, because that's really what today was about. That $85 isn't a magic trick I pulled off. It's not some special deal only I get. It's just a comfortable, ordinary week of eating well in a coastal town in Western Australia, fresh fish, good bread, real coffee, a Friday treat, all of it. Any one of you could push that same cart. The prices at Dave's stall don't ask where your passport's from. So here's what I'd do if I were you tonight. Picture your own week, your own check, this same table. That's the arithmetic worth doing tonight. Take whatever you spend on groceries right now, back home, and set it down next to $56 for a full week. Not a stripped down week, a good one. See what that gap could mean over a year. Over 10 of them, because that's the part most folks back home never quite believe until somebody lays it out line by line on the table. They hear Australia and they think expensive. They picture the airfare, the distance, the far side of the world, and they assume the daily living must cost a fortune too. And on a few things, the imported stuff, the odd luxury, sure, but on the food that actually fills your week, eating well here is more within reach than nearly anyone back home ever lets themselves imagine. I'm folding this old canvas bag up now, putting it back by the door for next Saturday, when I'll do the whole thing again. Dave will be there with his sunburned arms and whatever came in off the boat that morning. The cockatoos will be screeching over the car park, the salt will be coming off the estuary. And I'll fill this bag with another week of good living for right around $85. The light's just about gone. Gold over the water again out there. Same as Thursday, same as most nights. And the number you came here afraid of, that big, scary cost of living number you've been carrying around in the back of your mind, well, you just watched it add up to $85 right here on the table. It's smaller than you thought. It always was. You just had to see somebody lay it out, plain and slow, from the porch.